Nessa Carey, The Epigenetics Revolution, How Modern Biology is Rewriting Our Understanding of Genetics, Disease, and Inheritance. Embark on a fascinating journey through the world of epigenetics and discover how modern biology is challenging our understanding of genetics, disease, and inheritance. In The Epigenetics Revolution, author Nessa Carey unravels the complex world of DNA, highlighting its role as a script rather than a mold, and showcasing the intricate roles that epigenetics play in controlling gene expression. Delve into examples of weight differences in genetically identical mice, the long-lasting effects of the Dutch hunger winter, and the lasting impact of childhood trauma. Get ready to explore the intricacies of genetic expression and how our lives may be guided not only by our genes, but by the unique art of epigenetics.
Beyond DNA, the power of epigenetics. A new understanding of epigenetics is changing the way scientists think about the human genome. Instead of viewing DNA as a strict set of biological instructions, epigenetics provides a unique instruction set that helps cells behave differently in varying circumstances. DNA methylation and histone modifications are two crucial types of epigenetic modifications that switch genes on and off, allowing them to adapt and change. This article unpacks the intricacies of epigenetics and how it affects humans beyond the lab mice, questioning the accuracy of the grandiose statements surrounding the completion of the Human Genome Project. The Human Genome Project was once considered a monumental breakthrough for science, but the completion of the project had left many questions unanswered. The significance of the DNA was overestimated, and the emphasis on DNA as a mold for making identical parts in a factory was incorrect. Instead, we should think of human DNA as a script for theatrical performances, which can be interpreted in unique and idiosyncratic ways. Epigenetics is the unique instruction set that modulates gene expression and directs cells to behave differently in response to varying circumstances. Epigenetic modifications switch genes on and off to adapt and change. DNA methylation, a chemical tag adding a methyl group to DNA, turns genes off and adds histones, protein that structures DNA in the nucleus, to act like a dimmer switch, strengthening or weakening the expression of a gene. Epigenetic differences are established early on, even prenatally, with specific examples in inbred mice where differences in weight and temperament were observed despite being genetically identical. Epigenetics has a significant impact on humans beyond inbred mice. It explains how identical twins develop unique characteristics, why people respond differently to certain environmental factors, and how stress can trigger epigenetic changes that influence behavior. Epigenetic variations contribute to intellectual development, chronic diseases, and aging. Additionally, nutrition can promote or inhibit epigenetic modifications, leading to developmental abnormalities or cancer. In conclusion, epigenetics is a game-changer in understanding the intricacies of human biology beyond the scope of DNA. It offers a new perspective on gene expression and behaviors that go beyond genetic determination, debunking the notion that DNA is the blueprint for life. Epigenetic modifications influence phenotypic outcomes, and their potential to be changed through various environmental factors presents new opportunities to regulate gene expression in disease and aging. The Dutch hunger winter and developmental programming. During the Second World War, the Dutch hunger winter created an unplanned experiment in which thousands of people faced a period of intense and bitter food shortages. The famine that followed shed some light on a phenomenon known as developmental programming, which refers to the lasting influence on adults of events that took place during their prenatal development. Scientists discovered that babies born to women in the last few months of pregnancy were likely to be born small, while babies born early in gestation were of normal weight. Small babies tended to remain small even into adulthood, experiencing obesity at a lower rate than the general population, while normal weight babies had an increased risk of obesity. Studies found alterations to some of the key genes involved in metabolism, leading to the discovery that fetal malnutrition might influence adult weight, and it's down to epigenetic changes made during gestation. The science of inheritance. The notion that we only inherit genes from our parents is not entirely accurate. This article explores the theory of epigenetic inheritance and how experiences and behaviors can alter our genes and affect future generations. The author examines the evidence through several experiments, showcasing that the environment can have a significant impact on our genetic makeup. This article makes us rethink the notion that genetics is a predetermined and immutable aspect of our existence, and how our actions may have more profound effects than we previously thought. Childhood trauma and epigenetics. Childhood trauma can result in lasting psychological damage. Epigenetic modifications may hold the answer to how childhood trauma affects adult mental health. Neglect and trauma in childhood can encode reactions of adults. These modifications increase cortisol levels, leading to chronic overstress. Have you ever come across a misery memoir? It's a type of autobiography that narrates the challenging life of the author, especially as a vulnerable child. These kinds of biographies speak of childhood neglect, trauma, and abuse. Surprisingly, despite these difficult beginnings, the stories that become bestsellers often end with an optimistic outlook. The child overcomes the adversity faced early on and succeeds as an adult in achieving happiness. However, childhood abuse and neglect are challenging to overcome, usually leading to lifelong emotional difficulties. People who experience such abuse or neglect in childhood are 3 times more likely to kill themselves, highlighting the significant impact of childhood trauma on lifelong outcomes. So, what is it about childhood trauma that can so adversely affect adult mental health? One theory is that childhood trauma is encoded epigenetically, affecting adults decades after the offending events ended. Cortisol is a hormone that our body produces when we encounter stress. The more stress we experience, the more cortisol we produce. Adults who underwent trauma in childhood display raised cortisol levels when they grow up as a result of chronic overstress. This phenomenon is also present in other species, such as rats. Neglected baby rats do not receive sufficient grooming and thus lack critical aspects of postnatal maternal care. These rats grow up with higher levels of stress and a tendency to overreact to mildly alarming situations. In rats shown more maternal attention, the cortisol receptor in the hippocampus expresses more strongly. By doing so, cortisol levels are lowered, leading to calm rats. However, in neglected rats, the relevant DNA is methylated to a greater extent, leading to an increase in cortisol levels and, correspondingly, stress. Scientists are now contemplating whether these results apply to humans too. In humans, childhood trauma may result in lasting psychological damage and influence adult behaviors based on epigenetic modifications. Research into the epigenetic aspects of childhood trauma is some of the most controversial work in the field of epigenetics. The results are, at times, too minute to make such pronounced behavioral differences. Nonetheless, research into this field shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, scientists are optimistic that these continued investigations will unfold some of the once lurking mysteries and help generate healthier outcomes for those whose traumatic experiences affect them negatively as adults.
The Epigenetics Revolution takes you on an enlightening tour of the dynamics between our genetic script and the distinct epigenetic modifications that influence our gene expression, providing groundbreaking insights into our health, inheritance, and evolution. Revisit the consequences of events like the Dutch hunger winter and uncover how epigenetics might connect childhood trauma with adult mental health. With its captivating examples and eye-opening revelations, this book provides a compelling perspective on the power of our DNA script, offering profound knowledge on the factors that shape us and how our gene expression is influenced not just by our own experiences, but by those of our predecessors as well. Embark on this intellectual adventure and experience the astonishing versatility and profundity of the world of epigenetics.